I mean, it's almost a cliche, isn't it? The kid who gets beat up day in and day out, one day just stands up and decides he's going to be stronger and smarter than everybody else picking on him.
I think I was like a time bomb or a dynamite with the wick burning. When I exploded on him, I mean, I had no intention on it. It wasn't something that was premeditated. It just happened that way.
Do you think your father wanted to teach you how to fight because he wanted you to physically defend yourself?
Yes,
so
definitely.
Fighting and striking out was absolutely acceptable. It was expected back then?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Absolutely acceptable. In my neighborhood, if you couldn't fight, you better be able to run.
Those are your two choices. Fight
or run. And I wasn't the quickest runner.
It's interesting that your parents, you know, when you look back, it's probably a terrible stroke of luck that to get you out of trouble and to maybe try and straighten you out, you got shipped into Detroit.
Well, that came after at 14 years old, I had been causing so much havoc in school. By then, I remember that was 5 years after I'd gotten in a fight with Red Turner. So I'm getting in trouble now. I can fight. I'm starting to fight back. And you know what's bringing me? I thought it was respect, but it was fear. But in the projects or in the inner city, you get. That's how a lot of people get there. I found out even as I got older. When I walked in a hotel, I get a beer for nothing. Hey, people want to be around you. This cat can duke. You can help me tonight if I get in any trouble. But I sent away for some illustrations. They were all these commando and defendo pictures. There's about eight pages with all these little illustrations on how to fight dirty, how to protect yourself in the street. We developed a gang called the Mobsters, and I practiced on them, and even trained them. We got really good. I became the Minister of Warfare for that.
That gang?
Yeah, the warlord, the Minister of Warfare. And we learned all kinds of dirty tricks. I would carry sand in my pocket, or cayenne pepper, throw it in people's face. They go to block it, that leaves the rest of their body open for anything I need to do. See, black kids in Windsor weren't like the rest of black kids in Canada, Canadian blacks. Black kids in Windsor are Americanized.
And they were more violent?
American guys would come over carrying guns, straight razors, and knives. You can't fight them with fists. So we began to carry guns, straight razors, and knives. I have scars. I have a nasty scar right here where I stopped the straight razor. I have another one on my back. It's not something, I think it's terrible. It's vicious, and I fight against that now, but I understand why people form gangs, why they become tough. I mean, how do you protect yourself when you're living in an environment like that? So
at the worst of it, when you were out there brawling and fighting and defending yourself, how bad did you get? I never stuck anybody with a knife. I never shot anybody. I'm thankful for that to this day. I'm very thankful I never took anybody's life, or I didn't do that. Basically, I got by with my hands, but a lot of people can't fight. I boxed for all those years. I learned all that street stuff. I hung around with guys that were so tough. I mean, really tough guys. I wanted somebody to start something so I could show everybody. So you could show everybody what? That I could fight. It was something I could do good. If I could do nothing else, I could rumble. What a wicked place to grow up. There's probably a lot worse places. When I look back now and I look at other countries, I remember when I was 9 years old, or in that area, 9, 10, I was at the Windsor Arena. And I saw Alan Freed. And he was great. Are you familiar with Alan Freed? I mean, he was the big time disc jockey back then. Rock and roll. That's right. He coined the phrase rock and roll. He brought his, what he called the big beat into Windsor. He had Dion and the Belmonts, Frankie Lyman, Chuck Berry, Little Richard. He had them all. And to watch him introduce these people from the side of the stage, because I worked there part-time, just sweeping the floors and that type of stuff. We just lived down the road from there. And to watch him with all these heroes, I mean, rock and roll was huge then. And joking with them backstage, I said, wow. That's what I want to be when I grow up. I'm going to be like Alan Freed. I'm going to be a radio personality. I'm going to introduce all these great stars. And I remember leaving after, going home with some people I knew and telling them about that. And they asked, man, you nuts, man, no brothers, they didn't say, they used the N-word. We ain't in that kind of stuff. But that was my dream.
But when everybody told you you're nuts, and there's no way it's going to happen for a little skinny, stinky kid like you, what did you feel? What did you think?
I just brushed it off. And, I mean, I just thought, hey, it ain't going to happen then. That's all. I mean, I sort of took them at that. When you're 10 years old, you don't know. You just...
it ain't going to happen. That's what you thought.
It ain't going to happen. You see, you need that. Kids need encouragement.
Yeah.
They need to believe. In other words, I just didn't have what it took. I mean, that's what they were telling me. But they come from an era when black people weren't involved in even today, I mean, in a major city of Toronto size, there's very few blacks in radio. All right. Hey, welcome into a beautiful Sunday afternoon. It is the Spider's Web here on CFRB 1010. And I got to tell you what, if you want to come in here, you know what it's all about.
Tell me how you got involved in smokers.
Just for people who don't know, smokers are these unsanctioned fights. By this particular time, I was living in Detroit, and I'd moved across the border to stay with my Aunt Ida in Detroit.
To get cleaned up.
Coney Gardens area, yeah, she couldn't handle me neither. As soon as she whipped my butt, and as soon as they went to sleep, I'd be out the window and down around Grand River and Hudson.
And Detroit was rougher than Windsor.
Please. They called it Murder City, USA.
With good reason.
The year I left Detroit was in 1967, and they had 780 murders that year.
Tell me about smokers, and we'll go back to 1967.
Smokers. Well, a friend of mine, TC, who was a gang member, I was standing out in front of the Greystone Ballroom, which was the hottest teen dance in Detroit then. And I have no money. I'm brokered and Humpty Dumpty after he fell off the wall. And I got a call from TC. He'd just come out. He did 3 months in the county bucket for bootlegging, because this guy used to sell all that corn liquor. That's what we sold a lot back then in Detroit. Corn liquor. Anyway, he comes out, got a big shiner. He got a little cut on him. I said, man, what's up with you, man? Somebody kicked your ass? That's what he says. Hey, nobody does that to me. You know better than that, brother. He said, he pulled out a pocket full of money, big money to me. He's got all kinds of them. I said, what happened? He says, man, I got into, I did a smoker. I said, what do you mean a smoker? Man, we got some fights going on. So I want it in right now. I said, wait a minute, man. If TC can do this, I can do it. So, but he couldn't come out and tell me what was going on. He had to get permission. He had to go to these people. These guys were loan sharks, and these guys were hoods. I mean, this was organized crime. So I waited for about 3 weeks. I bugged him every day. He turned me out a little money. We were good buddies, but I wanted to get my own jackpot. So anyway, one day he comes by to get me, and that night I did my first smoker. But it was funny. The smoker was, I mean, it was fascinating because there were people from all walks of life there. Betting, rounders, business people, pimps, hustlers.
Did you win?
I won. I won because I knew how to use a left jab. I outran this guy for 2 rounds, bloodied his nose real bad, outran him. He wasn't in shape. People bet on the side. So I ended up with that night, I got my $30, whatever it was, and then I got some of the guys, rounders. These guys were also players. You know, they give you some money. And that's how I did my first smoker.
I think it's something to admit that 1960